Hello and welcome to another episode on Srilingo. Um, Sana is my guest today. Sana and I recently met at a conference, and I was telling her that, I've started these podcasts on Srilingo. And because Sana is a very opinionated person, if you have a line of thought, she will always give you an opinion that opens up another line of thought for you. So I told her that why don't you do a podcast with me and topic of your choice because she is a very, very well read person also. So I thought topic of her choice. And guess what? She's come up with the hardest topic that we've ever discussed on Strilingo. It is a very touchy topic as well. It's about toxic parents. The Indian society is such that, parents are lauded to be next to gods. Of course, that emotion is there, that parents are like gods. But what about those kids who have toxic parents? So, this is the topic that we are going to be discussing today. Sana, welcome to Strilingo. I am so happy that I have you today. I've always wanted you to be on this podcast with me because you always have some very brave and some very meaningful things to share. So, the topic is about toxic parenting. And I don't know if you've ever heard that from your parents. I've never heard it. Sharma ji ke bete ki tarah bano. I mean, like, change the gender, but whatever. Sharma ji's beta is supposed to be the Adarsh beta, and you are supposed to be like Sharma ji's beta or beti. And if you aren't, then you're letting your parents down. You're not living up to their expectations. You're some sort of a loser. So let's start on that point. Comparison. When parents compare kids to other people's kids or even cousins or even their siblings, how does that feel?
First of all, thanks so much. More than anyone else, all the things that you said about me actually applies to you more than me because you are definitely one of the most well-read women that I have met. And it's very hard to find women who will stand up for their opinion, especially in today's time, because we are living in a society where women feel that they need to cuddle men's opinion so that they can be seen that they are at par with them, which I have always seen that you don't cuddle any such emotion. And yeah, respect for that.
Thank you.
And coming back to what you said, comparison definitely is something that really kills. And you know what people don't understand really, that it's a seed that you put inside your child's head that you will never be able to get out, because no matter how good you do, you'll always compare yourself with someone else. So essentially dekha jaye to you're not really trying to make your parents happy, you're trying to make Sharma ji happy. That's what your life becomes. So that, and I don't think in a situation like that anyone is winning, because no matter how much you do, you will always compare your child with someone else. But anyway, I do understand that parents also come from a certain kind of societal pressure. So yeah, as much as damaging it is, I think that if it can be curbed at a young age, it's great. But once you are slightly older, I think it becomes the responsibility of the child or the person to fight it and basically understand that this comparison will never get over. Today it's your parents comparing you. Tomorrow your manager will compare you with some colleague. Tomorrow, and then this comparison business will never really get over. But the only thing is that your manager comparing you with someone else will not bother you as much. It would bother your parents comparing, because wahan pe, there's this very big thing that ever since we're a child, we want to do something for our parents. We want them to be proud of us. And if you make it that difficult for them to make you feel proud, you're basically leading them to a path where they'll never be truly happy. So yeah, that's what my opinion
Important
is.
point, Sana. You said that comparison never stops in life. Maybe it starts at home and then it moves into workspace. Maybe after marriage, it could be comparison between two daughters-in-law, all sorts of things. The funny
Yeah.
part is that if it happens at workspace or if it happens in your marital home, then there is a reason to go for therapy, that
Yeah.
overworked or underconfident people or problems in marriage, you need counseling, all sorts of things. There is a reason to go for therapy. But the problem with toxic parents is that people think they are to blame because society has
Yeah.
made such a hue and cry about just mother and father. They don't discriminate between good parenting and bad parenting. As long as you are parents, you are supposed to be God. So, when children go through toxic parenting at home, they actually start feeling guilty that it must be my fault. And most of these kids, they think probably 100 times, and even after that, don't end up going for any sort of help, any sort of
Yeah.
counseling, any sort of therapy, because it's supposed to be, I mean, even they don't even talk about it with colleagues very openly, because oh my god, अपने माँ बाप के बारे में कौन कैसे बोल सकता है, they'll think like this. And if they are talking and addressing the issue with somebody, that other person is also a part of the system, no, they will also start thinking like that. Look at him, look at her, they're talking about their parents like this. So it is a very, very fine line, I think, and I feel sorry for such kids. I know somebody personally who used to get beaten as a child because the mother had a lot of frustration for various reasons. And she held it against her mother till that one day when she was an adult, and she found that confidence to actually sit and tell her mother that, you used to hit me so much that I developed this sense of abhorrence towards you. But many
Mhm.
people can't do that. I mean, think about it. You can't talk to your parents about everything. That's again a societal thing. Now we don't talk to our parents about everything. What do you have to say about that? That we cannot address this issue fully. We are subjected to such biases that we cannot address this issue fully.
I think the first bias, like you very rightly pointed out, it starts with self-esteem issues. That you will doubt yourself. So when you cannot recognize the problem, how do you solve it? So you are convinced because of this constant comparison that I'm not good enough. No matter how much I do, I will never be good enough. And this baggage you will carry wherever you go, in a relationship, in a job, maybe even in like a friend sort of dynamic. You'll always feel that, oh, I'm not good enough. If somebody is being friends with me, clearly they're doing, some sort of a favor, or maybe be, out of pity, because maybe I'm not good enough. And that leads them to try so hard to get everything in life that eventually they kind of lose sense of who they really are, especially what their personality is. Because you must have heard people pleasers. Their
Yes.
idea of people pleaser is that they should be liked by everyone. But tell me, how many people pleasers do we actually like? Nobody really likes them. So that's the thing, that if you become a people pleaser or a parent pleaser, you're not really being yourself. And what can really help you achieve what you want in life is if you're really yourself and you can tap into what things you can do very well. And unless and until you have that capability of seeing things clearly within yourself, how do you do that? So comparison and another thing, see what you spoke about, there are two issues here. Comparison with can be with Sharma ji ki beti, can be with your own sibling, can be with anyone. But then focusing on society is also a very important factor. That what will they say? So now their opinion is way more important than my parents. But I guess that's something that really affects children. And comparing them and putting them in a pedestal where they are just out there to make everyone happy is just going to lead them to a nervous breakdown, make them a person who's bitter, unhappy. I mean, who knows? You just spoke about this mother who used to hit her child so much. If we actually go and dig deeper, who knows that the mother herself was subjected to this kind of toxicity?
Yes.
And what she is doing now is just continuing that cycle without realizing it. And it was so beautiful that the daughter could muster the courage to actually do something to break that cycle. I mean, hats off to her.
But
But
how
this is
many
something
can?
that
How many can?
how
How
many can?
many can?
Smita, this in fact, what you were saying, this idea is frowned upon. Like,
Yes.
if you say anything against your parents, you are just looked upon as if, oh my God, you're one of those bitter people who blame whatever misfortune you have in life, you want to blame it on your parents. Which, I mean, even I don't subscribe to that kind of thought process myself, but I do believe in discussion. And I think
Yes.
discussing things openly can bring a lot of difference, not only, in parental relationship, any relationship in your life.
Every kind of relationship now has a listening ear. Be it, I have problems with my husband, I have problems with my boyfriend, I have problems with my sibling, I have problems with mother-in-law. Every kind of relationship, if they have problems, your friend or your anybody will listen to you. But when it comes to parents, you are immediately judged. Oh, how can you have problems with your parents? You are the problem. You are the problem. You are the problem. It's really, really sad that, so many people live with this day in and day out. And like you mentioned about this girl who mustered the courage to actually speak to her mother. Imagine if she had never done that. Maybe her mother went through bad parenting. She inflicted the same thing on her daughter. Now the daughter will become a parent one day. Who knows if she would have done the same thing? And it's a cycle of bad parenting after bad parenting and unhappy children.
Yeah.
Hannah?
It is. And another thing is that parent, why do we not question parents? It's also a cultural thing because a lot of cultures, like in Western society, they're still more open to the idea. Because in our society, most religions that we follow, including Hinduism or Muslim or Christians or Sikhism, that our parents are close to God. That is the kind of cultural understanding that we all grow up with. That whatever you do for your parents is never enough because they've given birth to you, they have fed you, and sometimes there's certain toxic parents who kind of use it to blackmail kids. They say that, अरे तुमको पाला पोसा तुमने हमारे लिए क्या किया.
Exactly. That was
So
what I was coming to. तुमने हमारे लिए किया ही क्या है? That sense of entitlement. It makes kids who go through this, no, or adults who go through this, it makes them feel so hollow from within, because you are not enough. And can you actually repay somebody who's given birth to you? Because that's a whole process of 9 months and whatever, when you were a child, you needed hand holding, you needed to be taken care of, all of that. Can you repay a person? That debt cannot be repaid. But to put it in so many words that I did this for you, first of all, it's not supposed to be a transactional relationship. But then some parents take it upon their convenience that, oh, it can be transactional because I did so much for you. Now you have to do this. You have to live a certain way. You have to earn this much. You have to go and get this degree. Your cousin is doing this. So you have to buy the next big car. Maybe the person is not interested.
yeah, that's
that
true.
sense of entitle that sense of entitlement, on parents' part. I don't blame them wholly, because at the start of this conversations, and I heard you say that, parents are also affected by the society they grew up in. But I think as kids, we need to be able to have conversations that can make them at least see a different picture. Why are we
Absolutely. The
so
idea,
bound?
yeah, I was saying the idea of this conversation never was to point fingers at anyone. So the idea is to just have a healthy conversation. And if someone pondering and thinking about the same things that we are discussing right now, maybe it won't be such a bad idea to have an open discussion with your parent.
Is that the
I know
reason
it's
why
hard.
Animal did so well? Because Animal had daddy issues, no? Ranveer had a very toxic relationship with Anil Kapoor, who plays his father. So, maybe everybody thinks that Animal did well because A, Ranveer Kapoor is a huge star, but also because the violence is working in today's day and age, be it on OTT, be it in theater, violence is working. But I think that day when I met you and spoke to you, you put this thought in my head that many people suffer from toxic parents, and this may be one reason why Animal must have worked, because many people identified with Ranveer Kapoor. He has so much to say to his father, but
Yeah.
he can't.
I,
So he exhibits
yeah,
it in the form of violence. Do you agree that
absolutely.
Animal worked because of that also?
I mean, I don't entirely agree. I do agree it was a major factor. It was also a very well made film. Let's not, take away that from Sandeep Panga. I might not agree with the politics of the film, of how, whole gender thing is, handled in that film. But coming back to the point that, yes, most kids in India, they suffer from this syndrome where they are unable to make their parents happy. And parents, they have kind of somehow taken up this role that as a parent, this is our job to pretend that we are not happy, even if we are. Because if we do, then our child might not feel encouraged to do things, in like might not feel encouraged to do more things in life, try new things. So it's kind of a cycle, and most people are trapped. I don't know if they're comfortable. Some people are comfortable in that cycle. Some people just live with it because, like you said, it's a taboo to talk about it. You cannot talk to anyone. And when you see, say, a Ranveer Kapoor go through the same thing, you feel like, oh, finally, I'm not alone in this world. At least I can go to a movie for 3 hours. I can cry like a baby, come out, feel alpha male, as masculine as I can be. And yeah, my life is great. I mean, in actuality, They need a shrink to talk to. And just watching animal or a Pixar movie and crying for 2 hours is not going to really solve problems in life. Only conversations can really solve problems, I think.
There's this structural setup within which we live in most households, where you do not put your opinion in a stern manner, because you have a fear that you may end up hurting your parents. But unless you do that, it's not really the parents' fault. Also, at some point, I'll tell you why. Because
Yeah.
they are so used to telling their child to do what, and the child keeps on doing it so animatedly, that unless the child really rebels, and very few rebel, you will never really know that your child is not happy. Which is why in Kota, you will have so many kids actually committing suicide. Why? Because they did not live up to parents' expectations. What if the child fails the entrance exam after being in Kota for 4 years? Parents are devastated, because many parents are living their unfulfilled dreams through their children.
Yeah.
That is another topic. There are so many parents who want to live unfulfilled dreams through, the success of their children.
Yeah. And especially in Kota, I've seen kids, they grow up very fast. Within that 4 years, they'll probably mature. Their maturity will probably go 10x as opposed to 4 years, because their parents, most of them, in fact, I didn't go to Kota, I went to a normal college, I did BA. But I remember there were kids in my college who came with this thing that my parents have worked really hard to send me here. They have sacrificed so much. They are sacrificing so much. So all you're thinking about, it's their sacrifice. It's like Raju from Three Idiots, that you are focusing so much on that sacrifice and fear that you're not really focusing on what you really want to do or what you can do best. The idea is not what you want to do and live a free spirited hippie life. The idea is that to find something that you're really good at. Like, I don't know what dynamic you had, because Bengalis, they are very like equal in that case. But I came from Delhi, North India. There, the power dynamics are very, very clear. Your father is a breadwinner. Even if your mother is working and she's earning and probably earning more than your dad, it doesn't matter. Dad is going to be the not only power, the power which will make all the decision whether you will go on school holiday or not, whether you go out for a movie with a friend or not. He will also take active decisions in your life. What stream of line you should choose, science lena hai, commerce lena hai, arts lena hai, whatever that you need to do, father will be the last authority. He's the CEO. And there is no democracy. I mean, if we had this idea of open discussion right from childhood, then children probably will be more responsible. And in fact, I have seen that growing up, kids who had a lot of restrictions, parents who were very authoritative, they went nuts when they went to college. Those kind of kids, they would get massively into drugs, alcohol, and they would do exactly what their parents fear, because their parents are being authoritative, of this fear that if I'm not authoritative, फिर तो बच्चा हाथ से निकल जाएगा. But because you don't realize the other implication that ये करने की वजह से वो और हाथ से निकलेगा, because the moment that child gets a little taste of freedom, he's gonna go berserk. That अब आज ही जिंदगी जी लो, उसके बाद पता नहीं मौका मिले नहीं मिले. So that kind of lends to a cycle, like you were saying, that there is a cycle, because you don't know any better. You are doing exactly what your parents did, and you feel that since my parents are the best parents in the world, this is the best way of parenting. If there are toxicities, I have to be blamed. If there's something that I want to talk about, I cannot talk about it, because again, I can't speak to the authority figure. He's like the big brother, big boss. You cannot speak to them. And there is a certain way that you can speak to them. Even if you want to, you cannot be very open. So all those things, those factors are there. Yeah, very much.
The whole purpose of doing this podcast on toxic parenting is just to lend that comfort to all those people who will watch this and probably don't have the words, don't have the courage, don't have the right mindset to approach their parents. Not, you don't have to be aggressive, but you have to be firm. There is a big difference between being aggressive and being firm. If you feel that you are under a toxic relationship, if you do not firmly come to terms with the person you are having that toxic relationship with, it will never end. It is a vicious circle of no return, and nobody actually ends up leaving their parents. You cannot leave your parents. Your parents are your parents. We do things for our parents because we love them, but that love has to come, be it any relationship, that love has to come from within. If that love is coming out of fear, one day it will translate into, God forbid, some kind of mental illness, as in the case of lots of students being unable to live up to expectations, committing suicide, toxic relationships with other people they will meet later on in their life, maybe with their kids as well. So I hope, that we found the courage to talk about it. I come from a very loving household, but I have no qualms talking about this at all, because I know that there are many people who suffer from this. And you can talk about any and every relationship, but you can't talk about having a toxic parent. It is very, very wrong. If you have a toxic parent, I think, and for friends also, if you have a friend who has a toxic parent, instead of judging, oh my God, you're talking about your father or mother like that, listen to the
Yeah.
person just like you would listen to, maybe him or her complaining about their mother-in-law, their husband, their boyfriend. Thank you so much, Sana, for doing this. I'm glad we could do this. Like always, you are the best person to talk to about this issue. It's touchy, it's walking on very fine lines, but it needed to be discussed. So thank you so much, Sana. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.